Welcome to Crash Course Central.
SCOTUS. The Supreme Court of the United States, also known as the SCOTUS, was established by Article 3 of the United States Constitution. Its given role is to ensure the American people the promise of equal justice under the law to function as guardian and interpreter of the Constitution.
This means that the Supreme Court, in a way, is the guardian of the people by ensuring that their individual rights in a court of law are upheld from beginning to end and by protecting the people from the other branches of government.
So, what is the proper role of the United States Supreme Court in protecting individual rights? The Supreme Court's proper role in protecting individual rights is, through its power as the highest court of the land, by striking down unconstitutional laws and by maintaining fundamental values despite a rapidly changing society.
First role of the Supreme Court as the highest court in the land, it's known as the court of last resort for those looking for justice. For instance, as provided for the 5th and 14th Amendment, all Americans shall not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law.
Even though the U.S. Supreme Court does not deal with criminal cases, the Fifth Amendment is reserved for the criminally accused, and it ensures that steps leading up to, during, and after a trial are constitutional for a defendant. These steps are meant to preserve the individual right of due process.
Sometimes these steps do not proceed fairly, and this is where the Supreme Court's role as the highest court of the land comes into play. For example, in the court case Miranda v. Arizona, where the question of whether a confession was legally obtained arose.
Miranda appealed multiple times until he reached the Supreme Court. The rulings of the Court of Arizona and other lower court rulings in similar cases were reversed by the Supreme Court of the United States, because a defendant has the right to remain silent to an attorney, aka our Miranda rights.
This ruling displays the finality of the Supreme Court's decision by protecting the right to due process.
The Supreme Court's second role in protecting individual rights is it protects civil rights and liberties by striking down laws that violate the Constitution. If Congress were to pass a law banning newspapers from printing information about political matters, the court has the authority to rule it unconstitutional by violating the First Amendment.
Recently, laws that have been questioned as unconstitutional include same-sex marriage bans, gun restrictions, and voter identification laws. Some case examples of the Supreme Court striking down laws include
Brown v. Board of Education, where Plessy v. Ferguson was overturned when separate was not deemed equal.
And the other example is Marbury v. Madison, where the Judiciary Act of 1789, which enabled Marbury to bring his claim to the Supreme Court, was itself unconstitutional since it allegedly extended the court's original jurisdiction beyond that which Article 3, Section 2 established.
This role allows the Supreme Court to establish judicial review over the other branches of government to further protect the rights of the people.
The Supreme Court's third and final role in protecting individual rights is to ensure that the changing views of a majority do not undermine the fundamental values common to all Americans. In today's changing society, it is important that American values are still upheld. Some common examples include freedom of speech, religion, assembly, press, and petition.
The Supreme Court sets limits on government power so that majorities can't take advantage of minorities' basic rights. The court can issue writs, and certain types can be used to challenge the legality of a case, like the writ of habeas corpus.
In the court case example, Engel v. Vitale, the Supreme Court ruled that it is unconstitutional for state officials to compose an official school prayer and encourage its recitation in public schools, due to a violation of the First Amendment.
This ensures that the majority does not undermine our fundamental right to freedom of religion.
In conclusion, the Supreme Court has and will continue to be the branch whose main purpose is to protect the people of the United States. The 9 justices that make up the Supreme Court ensure that when individuals appeal, that justice is served.
First, the court does this by ensuring finality in their decisions as the highest court. It also protects the rights of the people by striking down any laws passed down by Congress that it deems in violation of the Constitution.
And finally, the U.S. Supreme Court protects individual rights by ensuring that all people are judged on equal balance that does not undermine fundamental values common to all Americans.